There we are.
We are live.
I love that I got my phone alert that you were live before it actually went live.
All right. Wait a little bit. Maybe people will show up.
Yeah, we have bonus cat already. She heard.
Oh, I see a tail.
She heard my pre-rant about all the birds in the sky and was like, "Okay, let's get in on this." Yes, tail. Oh, squeaky girl.
Which cat is
this? This is Haruhi. Two of my cats were named after anime characters. All of my cats are rescues, and they've all kept their previous name. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So
let's.
Yeah, the quick intro is that this was supposed to be on Bree's channel. She is busy at our appointed time, so we're going to go ahead on my channel and talk other awards stuff too, not just Hugo Awards. I think we're about to start with Nebula Awards and a nice long rant about all the birds in the sky. Unless we've already gotten out of our system.
No, I don't know if I'll ever have it out of my system. So Joe's really lucky because he hasn't read it yet. So we get to poison his mind against this book. But it got up for... It got up for both Nebula and Hugo, and it just makes me sad that that's happened because it's like two halves of a book that are almost entirely unrelated. Like the first half was a really intense middle grade bullying story, like so intense. Like it was not okay for me. I don't know. I don't know what you thought about it, but
I hated the entire thing.
I just hated the whole thing. It was all awful.
My hate for it is great enough that I start feeling like a really bad person when I talk about it, like I'm being really mean to the book or the author or something. I think it's a truly awful book, and it's going to win all the awards, like I said, despite me.
I feel like the two halves of the book were bad in two different ways for me. So like the first half was just way too, like the first Harry Potter book, there's some really intense bullying, but it only lasts about 60 pages, right? Like you get his life is awful, everything's awful. Yay, now you're a wizard. And I feel like this was that part of the Philosopher's Stone just turned to like 50, like way past 10, like all the way up to 50. Like both of their lives are awful, are horrific. And it's so long. It's so long. And then all of the good stuff that we would enjoy getting after that, the kind of relief of here is magic school, here is tech school, here is you coming into your powers and having friends. We skip all that.
Yeah, that's what I remember is, the female character is supposed to be a powerful magician or something. You're like, you never actually see her learning any of that stuff. It's just like, oh yeah, she went to school. It was really hard. Terrible things happened. And but that was the interesting bit.
Yeah. It's like that would have been the redeeming piece for me, is like getting to watch her learn how to do magic. And instead now we have two kind of irresponsible, messed up adults in a world where everything's going wrong and watching them kind of fumble around and making the worst choices possible at every single juncture.
And the terrible sex scene.
Yes.
Pubes, man. I don't want to know anything about characters' pubes.
Yeah. That is yeah. I mean, I could get how some people really enjoyed the science versus magic bits. Like that seems like I'm trying to understand why people like it, and I'm trying really hard.
I mean, I was looking forward to that. The pitch of the book originally seemed like, magic and science both being used to avert ecological disaster or something, and I'm really into that idea. It just never gelled.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there wasn't enough of that. I think there was too much kind of character angst and bad communication.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. No.
I'm trying to find the full Nebula Awards shortlist. Oh,
I have it up.
I have it. Okay.
Two books that showed up for Nebula that didn't show up for the Hugos were Borderline, which was an urban fantasy, which I thought was an interesting choice because you don't often see those on award shortlists because people have opinions about urban fantasy, lowbrow works. Have either of you read Borderline?
I've read it. Yeah.
Okay.
I've actually read everything
Shouldn't it
nominated in the novel category for the Nebula Awards. So
What was that, Joe?
No, it's on my to-read list, but I haven't read it
Okay.
yet.
I mean, I really liked Borderline. I thought it was really, really well done. But still, it was surprising to like see it show up. And then the other one was Everfair that showed up on the Nebula and didn't show up. And it's funny because you guys had such negative reviews of it that actually drove me to read it.
Did you like it?
Nah, I totally concede the point that it could have been a really awesome trilogy.
Yeah, that's my opinion. I still like all of the ideas and all the things it wanted to say. I like that. It's just the execution was not quite there.
Yeah.
But I can totally see why the SIFWA members nominated it, though, because like this and All the Birds in the Sky as well are like kind of critical darlings. Like other critics and writers and stuff really love them. I just disagree with them so very, very much.
It's like, if we don't think of these as science fiction and fantasy novels, like maybe we'll have higher opinions of them. I don't know.
Maybe.
There are just so many emotional beats missing in Everfair. Like you hear about characters doing a thing or discovering a thing or making a connection, but you don't actually get to witness it, and you never come back around to it. So you never get the payoffs, and that was just really frustrating. As someone who really likes to have that emotional connection, I mean, it's part of why I've struggled so much with the Three Body Problem series, because it's such hard sci-fi.
Yeah, I haven't read Death's End yet, which is the one that's nominated for the Hugo Awards this year. And having read The Dark Forest, and people are telling me that Death's End is very similar, if not more so, and just being so plot driven with bad characters and stuff. I don't know what people are thinking with nominating it.
Yeah. Joe, have you read the full trilogy or?
Not yet. It's basically all the full-length novels for both Hugo and Nebula. I haven't actually read that many of them. It's pretty much everything else that I've read. A very large portion of the actual novels I've only read one of each one, I think, or two.
Yeah.
My knowledge of them is not good yet.
You've read Nine Fox Gambit, right, Joe?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, I have chat open too. We should say hi to people in chat.
Oh, hi, chat people.
Alistair is here, James is here, Mark and Paul and Nicole. And Mark says that Death's End was better than The Dark Forest.
Is it more like the Three Body Problem? I enjoyed the it was hard, but I enjoyed Three Body Problem. Death's End, or not Death's End, but Dark Forest, I actually DNF'd about halfway through. I was like, I don't care if this world ends, so I'm going to stop.
When The Dark Forest came out, I heard a lot of people DNFing it. And that's why I didn't read it at the time. I made it through, but...
Yeah.
Mark says it certainly takes the epicness up to 11. Well,
okay.
That's how I read Liu Cixin now, is it's about the ideas and the imagination and like that epic scale, and not about individual characters or anything.
Yeah. You read the Invisible Planets anthology, didn't you? Or I thought that was really helpful, because I think only reading one translated Chinese work, it's really easy to overgeneralize. And then reading all of these really fantastic Chinese author stories and then getting back to him and going, oh no, this is just you. This is just what you do. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, that collection had a lot of variety in it, including almost like magical realism, and it made me think differently about Chinese science fiction, because I was so in that mode of Liu Cixin is the epitome of it or whatever, and it's not.
It's not. Yeah. I mean, he's very good at what he does, but what he does is not my jam. So
I have read some short fiction by Liu Cixin that was really awesome. There was a story called Mountain in Apex magazine. I think that was in 2015, maybe, which was really, really good. It was also like super plot driven, but it focuses on one character, and it worked. All the pieces in it gelled. And that's what I want his novels to be like now.
Yeah, it's nice to want things.
He's really prolific, so you know, the more stuff that gets translated, the more chance I have of finding something I like.
Yeah. Do we want to skip some of the happier novel commentary in case Bree can show up for us and like go down to the novellas?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure she's going to be able to join us. I know she's busy right now, so
let's just do the rest of the novels then.
Okay.
All right.
Or do we go straight into talking about Hugo's stuff? We could talk about what crosses over between the lists.
Yeah, there are 3 crossovers, three crossovers, one of which we've already talked about. So Joe, you've read 9 Fox Gambit?
Yeah, for Nebula, yeah.
Yeah. Did you like it?
Yeah. It was saying different, as everybody's saying, but different in a good way. It was, I mean, I don't know, I didn't find it as confusing as Hugo Nominees' trilogy, the Quantum Thief. Actually, but it was still peculiar, and not obviously the whole cylindrical calendar to start with. I had no idea what that was to do with. Well, I still haven't actually.
It seems like the math and the calendar elements of 9 Fox Gambit is what stymies a lot of people. Like they just can't get past it. I don't understand it either. I read it like magic though. Like I just assume that that's the way it works and not try to understand it. I also assume that Yoon Ha-Lee is a really fantastic mathematician and some of that is actually real. Because I think he really is a mathematician in real life. So,
yeah, I think if there's reality by consensus, it's really hard to find a scientific underlining of that or an underpinning. Like it's hard to say that this can be backed by science. This is probably a form of magic, but it's not treated like magic. It's treated like really complicated math. Mm-hmm. So, I mean,
I was watching Victoria Hoyle's Friday Reads video this morning. Her channel is Eve's Alexandria, and she's in the middle of reading 9 Fox Gambit, and she says something about viewing the calendrical magic stuff more like a worldview than as science or magic, that is the way that they perceive the universe, and if they don't perceive it through their calendar, then it makes no sense. It's kind of like viewing the world through the Christian mindset of how the world works, and if you try to see it through another way, it doesn't make sense to you. If I'm explaining that.
It's kind of like saying there's no absolute truth. There's just a truth you can understand, and if you get somebody else that's incompatible, then it's just not going to work. Like your guns won't make sense to them, and therefore they don't see them as guns, and it doesn't hurt them. Yeah. So some people call the general in 9 Fox Gambit an unreliable narrator. Do you guys really think he's unreliable, or do you just think he's untrustworthy? Like, because there's the bits that he's talking about his past, and it's like, do we think the bits in the past are untrue, or do we just think his interactions with the person he's inhabiting might be a little disingenuous?
I'd have to say that he's untrustworthy, not necessarily unreliable.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I have to reread the book and get more of the details.
These are the things that I think about. And of course the weird stuff that happened at the end that we probably shouldn't talk about, just assuming that not everyone who's seeing this has already read it.
Yeah.
Go read it. I mean, if you really hate opaque world building, it's not going to be for you. But
so Mark calls it science fantasy, which
yes.
Okay. I would agree with, especially since I read it so much as magic. Just I read it the same way I'd read a fantasy novel.
I'd say
Paul didn't like the military aspects, so
yeah, I'd say that it approaches science fantasy from like the opposite direction of maybe the Steerswoman, where like in 9 Fox Gambit everything feels like science, but it may actually be magic, and then I think the Steerswoman goes in the other direction.
Yeah.
So yeah. Ooh, I want to read them both side by side. So and then there's the Obelisk Gate, and I always worry about putting sequels into for finals, but then again, since the first one won, like I guess I think there's a general assumption that the overarching community has already read the 5th season, and
I had absolutely no qualms about nominating The Obelisk Gate for the Hugo Awards. I was just like, It's a really fantastic book. Sometimes I just want to see an entire series sweep the awards or something.
Yeah.
Love it that much.
I felt that way about the ancillary series. Like I was very much in the like, these are really great, and I don't care if you haven't read them. But I also felt like at least the middle book you could read without reading the first book, and you wouldn't actually lose that much. I don't know, like if you can go into the Obelisk Gate blind necessarily.
No. The Obelisk Gate, that entire series to me is like one long book just cut into 3 parts, and yeah, it's exactly the type of series that I would nominate for the best series category in Hugo Awards, actually.
Yeah.
Which may very well happen if they keep that category.
Yes. So, Joe, have you read The Obelisk Gate, or is that still on your to-read pile?
Still on. I've been waiting a while until close to the 3rd one is going to be released, and then if I do like the first, I can go straight through the old 3 in one go.
It will make a lot more sense if you don't take the long breaks. There's no recapping in these books. I think people were worried that it would suffer from the middle book syndrome in that it doesn't actually move things forward. And I was like, I don't know if that's the case. I feel like there's a lot of plot that happens in the Obelisk Gate.
I agree. So much stuff happened in it. It is a middle book, but all the things that happen are completely necessary. Yeah, and it just means the ending is going to be like super explosive.
Yeah, it kind of sets everything up for like really awful, huge, epic, terrible things to happen in the Stone Sky, and I'm just I don't know what side to root for at this point, which it just sounds terrible. But it's like, either side is good. Either side is good.
Oh, Mark asks a great question: is Obelisk Gate fantasy or science fiction?
I would put it strongly in fantasy. Like, I don't think it's possible. Like, it's a future version of, but I don't think it's. I don't know. Do you think it's science fiction?
Kind of. I think that the way the magic works, the way the world building is set up, it has a very science fictional feel to it. And it could be that I think that way because it's so heavily about like geology, which
and I think there's a way to read the Stone Speakers more as aliens than as like an alternate like reality creature, and I think that definitely can give it more of a science fiction feel. So I think it's kind of a choose your own lens. You can read it either way.
I'll put that in the fantasy science fiction crossover category then.
Yeah. And those are all the crossovers for Hugo's and Nebula's, and then we just have the glorious standalone. I will try and be as excited as Bree would be for the remaining book.
Yeah, I really want to talk about Hugo Awards now. So
yeah. Now we have Too Like the Lightning, which is the last novel, which is I read it almost entirely on the strength of you and Bree just being so excited about her, and I had to change my ballot last second to get it on there. So I was really pleased to see it.
Ada Palmer is a joy to the world. I mean, she's just a gift.
Do you want deeply philosophical science fiction? Yes, please. Yes, please.
I never wanted to read philosophy until I read To Like the Lightning, and now I'm like, I'm going to go read some Thomas More now or whatever.
I mean, she writes in a style that is reminiscent of that, but it's reminiscent of like a really good modern translation of that. I mean, if you want to go back and read Voltaire, it's not going to be nearly as much fun, unfortunately. It's false advertising.
Oh, well.
But yeah, it's definitely got that feel to it. So,
Joe, have you read any of the other novels in Best Novel for Hugo Awards?
You guys, no.
Just my Fox Gambit.
All right. It's
No.
okay. Once we're done with novels, we'll go into the shorter work, and it'll be great. But yeah, Too Like the Lightning is wonderful. It is delightful. I haven't read Seven Surrenders yet. I'm kind
You
of
need to
like
read
saving it. I know.
Yeah.
I'm just look, man. I have my reading plan until the end of May, so. But it's on my I should read this, and I feel bad that I haven't read it yet list. So.
Well, I have a comment about the last Hugo Award Best Novel, Closed in Common Orbit by Becky Chambers. This is the one I was actually really surprised to see in this category. I liked it, but I'm up in the air about its Hugo worthiness.
I feel like it was a much tighter novel than A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I feel like it is something that's much easier for someone generally to read and understand and like, because it followed fewer characters. There was more plot, kind of. But if you loved A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet and then you got to A Closed and Common Orbit and you wanted the same kind of thing, I feel like there would be like a level of disappointment. So I don't know. Like, I enjoyed it. I don't know if I would put it on the list instead of, say, After Atlas.
Yeah, I nominated After Atlas.
So the only book I nominated for the Hugos that did not make it was Version Control, Dexter Palmer, which I thought was excellent and didn't make any award lists. It made me very sad, but that's okay. But yeah, like those are the three that were kind of all very close together for me. I did nominate A Closed and Common Orbit, apparently. I think I read that before After Atlas. Maybe. Or After Atlas made me too depressed and I needed something happier. And because I read it like right next to Like the Lightning, like they're in the same 5-book review. So like I read them both. So probably there was some like shine that like shone off on it. So.
Oh, Amanda asks, what disappointed you most about A Closed and Common Orbit? And I have a hard time saying why I didn't like it as much, because it's exactly what you said, Denise. It's tighter. It has a better plot. It's just more focused. But I think I just didn't end up loving the characters. They did not capture me the way that A Small Angry Planet's cast did.
I think for A Small Angry Planet, it was basically the world was the ship, and then the other places you visited were just like places to visit, but that wasn't considered home. Whereas for A Closed and Common Orbit, home was the galaxy, home was these planets, and therefore they were allowed to be less nice, more gritty, more full of problems and complexities and flaws than I think the ship really had. Like the ship felt like the safe, warm place that you could feel good in, and now you're getting the whole world, and the whole world kind of sucks. Like the whole universe kind of sucks. So I think that was probably like one of my like it's not. It's different. It's very different. So.
Right.
Is there anything that you nominated that didn't make the list?
I fully expected to see Central Station by Lavi Tidder on the list. And I don't think it even made the Nebula Awards list either, which also really shocks me.
It was too much like a collection of shorter stories with no real resolution for me. Like I wanted the last story to be more of a wrap up than it was, and so I liked it, but it didn't do a novel thing for me. It did a short story collection thing. So, but it was good.
Apparently, I really love mosaic novels, which are really, individual stories that contribute to an overall one. So it worked perfectly for me. But I can understand like the kind of lack of resolution. I mean, I can't even really remember what the plot of Central Station was supposed to be. I just remember how it made me feel. If it's more about the effect on the reader than about the story or the characters, I can see why other people don't dig it as much. Yeah. For someone who loved A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, it seems kind of disingenuous of me to say, well, there wasn't enough plot in Central Station. But I mean, there was at least like a solid timeline for Small Angry Planet. I wasn't necessarily always sure what order the stories came in Central Station. I felt like they could have come in almost any order for the most part. Yeah. So, And
All
I agree
right.
with Mark. I totally want Central Station to make it to the Clark Award shortlist. I think it would be a perfect book for that award.
See, I think Central Station would be a really interesting like TV miniseries, like to do those stories as television, to like see them visually. I think would be very, very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that could work.
individual episodes, or each one split into like a small amount of episodes.
Like I think one episode per story, like maybe like an hour long story, like episode. I think would be really good. Yeah. All right. Are you ready for novellas?
Novellas. I want to
Yeah,
know.
I will, but
Hmm.
I'm going to turn on the light. It's too dark.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I just, it was like a time zone thing, so we could all visually identify that Joe is later in the day than us, and therefore it should be dark where he lives.
I really want to know which short fiction Joe read, because I think
Yes.
he's read a bunch of them. So
Yeah, I've read a surprising amount. I've kind of made myself a spreadsheet tab of here are all the stories, and here is my score, and then
I printed them all out because I'm weird, you know, and I marked all the ones that I nominated and all the ones I read. So blue is what I've read. I've read about 75% of the readable stuff on the list.
yes, ignoring the poison fruit. All right, there we go.
We can
So
see you.
Yay!
Yep.
So novellas.
Yes. Which ones have you read, Joe?
This is for Hugo. This Hugo's in it.
Hugo's. Yeah.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. All of them other than, because it's not in the right edition yet.
I think you're cutting out, Joe.
Which one hadn't you read?
This Census Taker by Michael, because it's not in the right edition to match my others yet. So,
I totally understand that. There are books that I haven't read because they're not in trade paperback yet, and that's what I purchased, and I'm not gonna. Yeah.
The Kay Ashante Wilson Taylor.
A Taste of Honey. Yeah.
Which you just read, Denise, right?
I think I just published the review yesterday. Yeah. Which is another opaque world building. Like, I have no understanding of this universe that Kaya Shanti Wilson is building. I have no idea but I like the stories in it, so that's okay. Something about magic math again. I don't know. Yeah, I've read all of them, but I only nominated 2 of them, so I have a lot of disappointment in my heart right now.
3 of my nominations made it, so half the category is stuff that I wanted. And I regret not nominating The Ballad of Black Tom. I think I submitted my ballot before I'd read it, and after I read it, I was like, I would totally nominate that.
Yeah, it was one of my 2. I nominated that and Every Heart a Doorway. I would be willing to go back in time and nominate The Dream Quest of Elitbo. But I think it's mostly because I love that short story collection so much. I don't know if I love that story itself so much. But yeah.
My money is on Every Heart a Doorway.
Yeah.
Guessing which one might win. I totally think that one has the
Has the
base
oomph.
behind it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, I've seen like some commentary recently that part of why it's loved is not so much the story, but because it's of the representation. And it's like, I can see that. I think, though, that it is a really interesting story premise, though. The idea of kids getting kicked out of fairylands and having to cope, right? I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there besides the representation. But the representation is still so novel. Wouldn't it be nice if we don't even notice anymore?
Yeah. Well, I'll be interested in seeing how the next novella in the series does. Down Among the Sticks and Bones. I've read it. It's coming out in June, I think. And, you know, it's set in the same world. It's more specific about 2 characters' experiences, and it doesn't have all that representation, perhaps, that Every Horror Door We Had. It was still really good, but I'll be interested to see, you know, will that be nominated for awards and talked about so much. So Paul asks an interesting, or poses an interesting question in the chat, which is if this category will turn into the best Tor.com story in the future. And I have a thought about that, actually. Tor.com is just dominating the whole novella scene right now. They're putting out really good work. Number one, they're putting out a lot of it, and it's very visible. It's readily available. And so I've seen people complaining, or at least commenting on the fact that it's only
two.
No, there aren't any novella length works on the short list that come from magazines.
Yeah, I was really disappointed in that. One of my nominations was from Clarkesworld, and I think it's just because the packaging is so different that I think it's harder to get these novellas in people's hands. Like I can go to my library and check out almost all of these novellas, right, just as they are, but it's much harder for me to get the Clarkesworld. I mean, I have to read it on a screen.
And my thing is, I think that most of the magazines that publish novellas are places like Asimov's and the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction, or Analog, that don't provide their stories online for free, because you have to have a subscription, you have to buy the magazine issue. That reduces their visibility. And the magazines that do provide free fiction, like Uncanny or Lightspeed or Beneath Ceaseless Skies, etc., usually don't publish things over the novelette length.
Yeah,
they're smaller. Yeah. Those stories are more expensive to acquire, and
I think sometimes also, if you're not in a Tor.com, you don't necessarily know that what you're reading is a novella. I mean, not everyone was aware that The Censor's Staker by Mayville was a novella, and I think his other novella, The Last Days of New Paris, was much better, but it wasn't the Vox Day Poison Pill, so it didn't get in. But I mean, looking at it, you like watch people's reviews, and it's like this novel, and then sometimes it'll say this novella. And quite often, when I'm reading a magazine, if I want to go, oh, I like this story, what length is it? I have to copy paste it into a Word doc and count the words myself.
Yeah, I've done that.
Like. And at some point, it just becomes easier just to accept the book that says novella, and so I'm going to read. I mean, if there were more publishers that got on the novella train, like I would follow them. I think at this point, Tor.com has paved a path to demonstrate that novellas can be successful standalone works. Now, let's get other publishers on this train, and yeah, they're fantastic reads.
Mm-hmm. I do hope that it's not a category totally dominated by Tor.com, though. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It makes me want to reach out and try to read more from other sources, not just rely on Tor.com for the novellas.
Yeah. Did you nominate any non-Tor.com novellas, or were they all Tors?
The only one I nominated that wasn't from Tor is actually one I haven't read yet. It's the one I've heard so much about, and that's The Arrival of Missives by Aaliyah Whiteley. I think he was nominated in the BSFA Awards. If Mark is watching, he probably knows, because I think he's read it and really enjoyed it. I nominated it because I wanted to read it. Like I thought if it would make it to the short list, I would have an excuse for buying it, because it's relatively expensive still in the US on ebook. So
what about sorry, Joe, what about you? Did you nominate in this category? Did you nominate anything that wasn't Tor?
No, the one I want to do well is obviously Penric and the Shaman, because I love that. I mean, that was Penric and the Shaman, first one or second? No, it's the second one, isn't it? Yeah. Everything by Bujold I've read, and yeah, I've already read like what 11 things by Bujold now, not 2.5 months.
Roll.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of worked out for me. Those novellas have, because I'm going through Bujold like mad, and I'm just loving her writing. So it's so fun.
I didn't love Penric and the Shaman so much, because I didn't like the secondary point of view I just wanted all Penric all the time for that second book. And so I still thought it was good. I'm not disappointed that it's on the short list. It was just not my favorite of what of those I've read so far. So.
And that is exactly why I've loved the later novellas after the first one. It's because you get that outside point of view on Penric as a character, and he's fascinating. It reminds me of reading the Vorkosigan saga and being so into the scenes in the books that show Miles from the outside. You spend so much time in a character's head, and then you want to know what other characters think about them, and some interesting things come up out of that, like how capable are they?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Nicole points out that the third Penric novella is not actually a novella, it's a novel.
The Penric's Mission is a novel?
According to Hugo guidelines, it is past the word count for novella.
Mm.
Which is why I was a little concerned that the vote would be split between her two eligible works this year, that many people would try to nominate Penric's Last Mission or Penric's Mission in novella, and it would split the votes, but I think that didn't happen.
Yeah. All right.
Are we on to novelette?
Yeah, let's talk about novelettes. It's my least favorite length. I only nominated 2 things in novelette. And one of them made it. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of Ursula Vernon, so I nominated The Tomato Thief and was like so excited to see it. Like I love all of her witch stories, her short story, like I want them all in a bind up. Like, oh, so good. So
I thought there was a bind up.
It
was just of her fairy tales. It was a collection they put out for Aresia, the convention.
Maybe
I think it might be available from Nesfa.
I will, yes.
It may not include the stories, but at least it includes her fairy tale retellings.
I already own most of those. I may actually own all of those. The ones that she does under T. Kingfisher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I already own all of those. Yeah.
I agree. She needs a collection to come out.
Yeah. Let's see.
What did Joe nominate in this category?
None of the ones here.
Yeah.
I've read all of them apart from the dubious first one, the joke one.
Yes.
Which is obviously related to the whole what's the name, Fox.
Yeah.
Dying Poppy thing. Which is,
I mean, on the upside, they only picked one thing per category. So we have, I think for the first year in a few years, a really good ballot overall. Like, yes, I think there's one thing per like most of the categories. It's not great, but there's 5 other choices, and I'm really happy with most of those choices.
Did they only had works and one work in each category on their slate?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I've read all the stories in this category that actually matter. And I nominated 4 of the 5.
Nice.
So I am super happy. The only one that I'm disappointed made it to the list is The Jewel and Her Lapidary by Fran Wilde, because I thought it was a really weak story.
It seemed like a very basic kind of standard fantasy story. Like there wasn't really anything like interesting or new about it. Just I read it and then I was like, okay.
I thought that the magic system with the jewels would be very interesting, but it honestly, it felt like a story I would have been really into when I was a child. It's simplistic. So
yeah,
just simple.
The only one of these I haven't read besides the T-Rex story is You'll Surely Drown Here If You Stay. So that's the only one the only other one that I've missed. So
really good.
I mean, it's Alyssa Wong. Of course, it's good. Like I'm not sad that it made the ballot at all. Like, I'm sure it's fine.
I'm not sure what else to say about Novelette. I'm just like really happy.
Did you guys like Touring with the Alien?
Yes.
Yes.
That's
okay.
the one I nominated. Yeah.
We talked about that in one of the live shows last year.
Yeah, that's right. We did.
Well, and surely, Johnny, if you mentioned that,
mhm.
you mentioned, no,
I talked about the
did you
tomato
mention
paste
tomato
part
paste?
then. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you mentioned that, yeah. And then the art of space travel we talked about. The only one that we talking about too much was the Fun World one.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I've read it, but I can't remember too much about it other than an odd magic system or something. That's about it.
I don't feel like there's any one story in the novelette category that I could really see winning like a clear favorite. I'm biased though.
I have a clear favorite, but I'm well aware that like it's a very particular taste. I really liked The Art of Space Travel. That was a 4.5 for me. So
I would
really
be over the moon if it won.
Yeah.
To be honest, I mean, I'm kind of pulling for Ursula Vernon.
Yeah.
But yeah, The Art of Space Travel was an excellent novelette.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything that anyone nominated from novelette that they were sad didn't make the list? What would be your preferred non T-Rex story in there?
The one I nominated that didn't make it was Cold Comfort by Pat Murphy and Paul Doherty. It's from the Bridging Infinity anthology that Jonathan Strawn did, and it was so good.
I have that and unread. I should actually get around to it.
This is the story from Bridging Infinity that I thought should have been in Drowned Worlds, because thematically it's perfect for the Drowned Worlds anthology, and it would have been the strongest story from that anthology, but nope, wasn't included in it. So what did you nominate that didn't make it to the category then, Joe?
I think I haven't got my estimate.
Oh.
My nomination list. I can't remember it. Annoyingly.
So I nominated. Go ahead, Joey.
That's all I can remember. It was from Uncanny, but I can't remember what it was now. I'll see if I can find it.
All right. So I really wanted Everyone from Themis Sends Letters Home. I thought that was really well done.
Is that a Clarkesworld story?
Oh, that is. Let me check. Probably. I read very little anything else. It is a Clarkesworld.
Okay.
It's
that's one that I listened to on the podcast rather than reading it, and I really struggle with the Clarkesworld podcast. Let's leave it at that. I should have gone back and read some of those in print.
Yeah. And that's Genevieve Valentine, who did what is it, Persona and Icon, the novels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You find your list, Joe?
No.
Okay.
Maya's here, and she mentioned Red as Blood and White as Bone by Theodora Goss. Which I agree, that was a really good one. I didn't realize that was a novelette.
See? Vegas thinks we can just do that.
Nobody knows what to vote for or nominate, in this category, because nobody knows what the lengths are. So
yeah. So that is our formal request to the editors of semi-prozines, prozines, and fanzines. Please be more explicit as to what length your stories are, so that we know whether or not we should nominate for them. Or we could be more careful of our Rocket Stank Rank reads, but really.
Some places, I think it's Lightspeed, actually put the word count on their stories.
So good.
Thank you. I just copy it straight over into my spreadsheet, and I know right away.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Do you want to talk about short stories?
Okay. If Joe's ready.
Yep.
All right.
I have one story in this category that I am just so freaking happy about.
Which one?
that game we played during the war by Carrie Vaughn. I thought it was such a long shot.
I also nominated it.
I was like, nobody else is going to really care, but I'm so happy.
Yeah.
I really liked it as well.
Yeah. Have you read her novel that came out this year? The Russians Abroad?
I have it checked out from the library. It's sitting on my stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
See how it plays out. That was the only one I nominated that came through, and then there was one on the list that I should have nominated, but I forgot to, and that was the Seasons of Glass and Iron, which is in the Starlit Wood, and I just thought that was I think that was one of my favorite books in the whole, favorite story in the whole book, basically. So I was like, oh, right, yes, that should be on the list. So I was really happy for that. But
yeah, this is the category that only 2 of my nominations made it. But I'm also like super happy about the shortlist anyway. I was surprised to see Alyssa Wong has a second story.
Yeah,
nominated.
Good for her.
It's good. It's not my favorite story by her. A Fist of Permutations in Lightning and Wildflowers. This is the one I can never remember the title of it.
Something about lightning and flowers.
Yeah. Ignoring the puppy trash in this category.
Yeah.
The only one that made it in short story that I am super iffy about is the Bo Bolander story. Our talents can crush galaxies, and I am the odd one out on this one.
Yeah, I haven't read it, but I've heard a lot of good press about it. Like, people really love that story. So, yeah.
I think I get what the story is trying to do, but it rubbed me the wrong way.
And I feel like a heretic, but I also haven't read the N.K. Jemisin short story. I know.
I had no idea that she had published short stories in 2016 until I was looking at recommendation lists in January.
Yeah.
And she has another one out, Red Dirt Witch, I think. It was in the oh shoot.
Very, very popular magazine.
People of Color Destroy Fantasy? That
yes.
issue? Which
yes.
I haven't read. So but it's a great story. Yeah.
What about you, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite happy with all of them. I mean, I've read all of them other than I haven't read Seaborn Grey and I haven't read the Puppy one. The others I've read, and they were Talons and Galaxies. I liked it, but such I didn't love it though. It's only about my favourite of that month. What do you mean? And I liked the game we played during the war. That was one of my favourites of start last year. That was what, March, was it? Yeah, March.
Yeah, March.
And I know I liked the Fist of Permutations and in Wildflowers, although I can't actually remember anything about the plot. I know I've read it, I know I liked it because of the rather long title.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't actually remember it. So, it wasn't.
Now, 3 of the 6 of these came from Tor.com. So, I wonder if it's just that Tor.com has gotten such a broad appeal now. I mean, everyone knows, like, it's free, it publishes regularly. Like, I believe also, one of the related work also came from Tor.com. So I wonder if it's just because everyone knows about it and everyone's reading it, and it's just making it be a bit heavier on the ballot than some of the other publishers. Puppies.
Sorry, my neighbors are outside again.
That's all right.
They're right outside my window, so I'm going to mute myself. You guys talk until this is done.
Yeah. I had 4 nominations, or I had 4 things on my nominations that didn't make it. And I mean, besides the obvious Ursula Vernon Razorback, which of course I have to nominate because it's Ursula Vernon, the other one I was kind of disappointed on not showing up was 7 Birthdays by Ken Liu. It was in, I think, Bridging Infinity, and then it was again in his Paper Menagerie. And I thought that was just really interesting and really good. And I was sad that that didn't come up. But other than that, it's hard. It's hard to be mad at this ballot.
I agree. I feel like I shouldn't complain about everything because it's really solid.
Yeah. With one glaring omission in the novel category, most of these are like, I don't necessarily love this, but I can see why people do.
Linnea asks, are you surprised or not surprised to not see any Sanderson on the list, considering how popular he is? I can answer that really quickly for me. I am not surprised at all that he doesn't make the list.
I think Sanderson similarly is one of those authors that is considered popular, but not necessarily considered literary or groundbreaking necessarily. Like, people really like his work, but when you are going to link like the best of the year, you're not necessarily going to link his work in that kind of span. I don't know how true that is because I haven't read a lot of Sanderson because I'm, oh, he's so popular. I just can't read it. But I think it would be cool if he would show up. I think some of his shorter work might be good, especially if he could write out of his established worlds, so we don't feel that weight of, I need to read 6 books this thick before I understand the context of the story.
Well, do you think that that's maybe something that dissuades people from nominating his works, even his shorter works, because they are so heavily dependent on the whole Cosmere universe? It's kind of like the one that was nominated for the BookTube SFF Awards this year, where it's like you have to read novels and like 6 things before you get to the novel.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's spoilers.
That makes it really hard, especially if none of that work has shown up in previous year's ballots. You can't make an assumption people have read it. And so then it has to really stand alone. And if it can't stand alone, then that's like, sometimes those works are good because it's a kind of a culmination of 6 books worth of character progression or plot interest that just gets there. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
That is why I think Loisig Master Bujil keeps being nominated. Like, the Vorkosigan Saga has had so many of its books over 30 years nominated. And I know some people don't like it because you have to read 15 books before you get to the 16th one, but they're so good because you have that buildup of the layers with the plot and the characters and all that history and everything, which is super rewarding by the end. But yeah. Joe, have you read Sanderson?
I've read his Mistborn trilogy.
Okay.
2 of his others sent to me from the publisher a few months ago, which I should read, and I keep saying I will read, and then I like Sanderson, no, and everything else.
I mean, he does have a certain reputation.
Yeah. Nicole also points out that a lot of his work is in young adult or middle grade, which isn't as popular. It's very rare for that to appear in the Hugo Awards.
I really would like there to be a young adult and or middle grade award for the Hugos. I think there is some really high quality stuff that doesn't show up because we only look at the adult works. And yeah, so he can, yeah.
Historically, I can think of only 2 young adult or middle grade works that have won the best novel category, and that's Neil Gaiman's The Graveyard. Is it the Graveyard Book? Or
The Graveyard Book.
And Harry
Potter.
Azkaban.
Yeah. It's like there has to be a huge author following to get that push to get it there. But the current community of Hugo Award, voters doesn't do YA, even when it can be really, really excellent. And I think it's to their detriment. So,
kind of going on a tangent, there's supposed to be a YA Hugo category trial next year, I think.
It's been in committee for years, and I think they're getting ready to trial it.
I know they're soliciting names for it. They had a final round of voting on names for the category recently.
Yeah.
So I figure that's going to be 2018 if San Jose opts to do it. I think that's
they better. I'm so ready. All right, so that's the. Do we want to talk about things like the related work category, or kind of going through, or do we want to skip that and go right to graphic works?
I'll go through. I mean, I've read half of the things in best related work, so I'm happy to talk about it.
Cool.
I think the one that nobody is shocked about in this category for numerous reasons is The View from the Cheap Seats by Neil Gaiman.
Mm-hmm.
One, it's Neil Gaiman. And two, it was also on the puppy slate.
Yeah.
It would have made it anyway. That's my opinion.
I DNF'd it.
I didn't think it was amazing. Some things in it was just such a huge collection, and there were a couple of things in it that were really, really great. But the overall thing
it was just so huge though. And yeah, it's so big. And then I don't think I was surprised to see the Geek Feminist Revolution, because I know that got a huge amount of hype and a lot of people really love Cameron Hurley. Mm-hmm. This book did not agree with me, but I can totally see why other people would love it. So I wasn't really There is sometimes a point in a book where, like this, where you disagree with an author, and that disagreement is so strong that it colors the rest of the book, and it's hard to recover from that. So it's like I can totally yes, I can see why people would like this. Yes, I know this is a very kind of personal, visceral reaction that I had to maybe 2 pages worth of the book, and then kind of ruin the rest. So I'm still glad it's there. I think she's. I really want to read her. I have actually never read any of her fiction. Yes, but yeah.
I'm rooting for it.
Yeah. No, I'm not even gonna be mad if it wins. I guess it's this is a personal no for me. But mm-hmm. I have Ursula Le Guin's book on my to read list, my 438 book long to read list. And I've heard of the Harry Potter posts.
I need to go read those. I assume, available for free on Tor.com. So,
yeah.
I nominated a different Tor.com thing. It was Kate Elliott's Writing Women Characters in Fantasy Without Quotas, which it did the rounds and it was really popular for a while. That was really good. It didn't make it though.
And I've seen a lot of people read The Princess Diarist, but not necessarily on BookTube. Within my other online communities, I've seen that kind of make the pass through. So,
could somebody tell me why that's considered to be a best related work? I'm completely unfamiliar.
A lot of the book is about what happened in the backstage of Star Wars, which is a sci-fi movie.
Oh, okay.
That's my best guess.
Debating whether I want to read that or not. I want to try something by Carrie Fisher. I'm also not a super Star Wars fan, so
I'm hoping that there's an excerpt that we get a piece of it, so I can see if I want to like her writing style. Because when it's nonfiction, for me, the writing style and the voice is such a huge. It's either going to pull you through or it's going to not. And then I've heard of Traveler of Worlds because it made some of the recommendation lists, but I haven't. I feel like I'm too young for it. I feel like it's a generation back for me.
Okay, so this is kind of related to something I noticed when we were all at Worldcon. And when you're at Worldcon, it suddenly hits you that there is this huge history of fandom. There are people of all ages there. And I noticed there were just like groups or panels of people who were much older and was solely devoted to things from a very, very long time ago. And I felt this huge disconnect because I'm young. I'm never going to read some of that stuff. And I think a lot of it is super personal because people like lived through that history and met people and everything. It's like I've read one thing by Robert Silverberg and talking about this category. I didn't like it. I really, really hated it. And this seems so specific to maybe an older generation that it's kind of, immortalizing the history of Robert Silverberg. So I'm not going to read the entire thing. I hope there's an excerpt in the voter packet because I would read it and judge based on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like with BookTube and with our meetups and with all of that, we're kind of working to create our generation's worth of memories and in-jokes and things.
Absolutely.
And that some of the older stuff just feels really opaque.
Mm-hmm.
Super opaque. And so it's like, that's cool, but that's not for me. And that's okay. So, yeah.
I guess the last one that we haven't talked about is Words Are My Matter by
Mhm.
Ursula Le Guin, and no surprise I nominated it.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised that it made it to the category. Even though it's by Le Guin and it's really great, it actually does talk about quite a few books and things that aren't science fiction or fantasy, which is, she makes an argument why some of them are speculative fiction, but
Yeah, it's on my to read, so it's on my soon to read. I think I have it on hold at the library, but yeah.
I got done reading it and I thought, man, I'm terrible at reviewing books.
Yes. Well, she has years of experience. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Graphic works. Graphic
I have
works.
to say, I've read 2/3 of the stuff in this category, and I have very little to say about it. I personally didn't feel like 2016 was a really amazing year for comic books or graphic works.
I nominated 5 things to the graphic work category, and none of them made it. So, I mean, I'm okay with Monstrous. Like, yes, okay, Monstrous Volume 1.
I nominated that.
That can have a spot. But actually, I'm disappointed. I would like Saga to stop showing up. Unpopular opinion time. I stopped liking Saga after 4. So
how many of us have read Saga? Joe, have you read it?
Nope.
It's so popular on BookTube, and I enjoy each volume that comes out, and I nominated it, but I agree, it's getting a little old.
Yeah. And I'm glad that we're still seeing like some comics come through. Although I worry that the comics come through because, they're finally addressing diverse issues and really kind of doing more than what they had been doing. And so it's kind of an attaboy for not being stuck in the same rut for 60 years. But I'm also someone who is like very into Image Comics and getting into Dark Horse. And there was so much that was good. On the other hand, there was so much that was good that was not a volume 1, and so that can be a problem too. Like Mind Management finished last year, and if Alistair is on, he should be very excited. And I thought that finale was so good, and I thought it deserved a nomination. I kind of almost as a culmination of a 6-book series that was just amazing and bitter.
What you don't see in this category very much are like standalone graphic novels, things like Ursula Vernon's entire Digger.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I would like to see more of. You're talking about like nominating something at the end of its run when it's done, and you want to recognize that achievement, but you just don't see that very frequently.
Yeah, and there are some really good webcomics that have come to completion. I don't know what's come to completion in the last year here, but there's some really good stuff that doesn't necessarily get a bind up. Or when we see a bind up, it happens much later, and then we kind of have to argue about first publishing dates with like Nimona, right? Like where they do a thing and it's really amazing and it completes, and it's hard to know at what point do you nominate it. And I think graphic work could use some fine tuning as far as a category. I like it. I'm glad it's here.
I'm not sure how the rules work because I honestly had never thought about nominating currently running webcomics.
It's happened. And it has happened specifically when the puppies have done it. So it must be possible because it didn't get disqualified. It's like
when they do it first.
It's like they've demonstrated a rule that works, and therefore, we should take advantage of that. But yeah,
I'm not aware of any like SFF related comics running right now online that I would nominate, but couple of years ago, like in questionable content's heydays, I would have nominated that in a heartbeat.
Questionable content is really good right now, though, because we have the AIs and we have the robots, and they're very active. And I mean, I may be hoping that there was a robot-human relationship that gets started that I think everyone is kind of shipping. But I still think like what they're doing right now with robots as people, like beyond the hilarious porn bot and whatever, right? Like they've like the whole robot repair, like Fight Club stuff has been a really good. But then again, it's like, since the story never really comes to a conclusion, at what point do you say, okay, that story arc is complete?
From this date to that date, I nominated.
Yeah. So, and then again, if something's been running for like 10 years and you just thrust a new reader at it, like they have to have a good starting point. So it's hard.
All right. I was surprised to see Paper Girls Volume 1 in this. I thought it was decent, but I think by far it's the weakest thing on here that I've read. There's somebody here who really, really loves it.
I thought the first issue of Paper Girls was really good. And then I got the bind up and I was disappointed. I think more that I wanted the story to go somewhere else than it went. And the art style wasn't good enough to keep me engaged. So,
yeah. Okay.
Haha, editors.
What is where's Sheila Williams from? Is she Asimov's?
I don't know. Google will tell me. Asimov Science Fiction Magazine.
Okay. Sorry, I have a yappy dog in the background again. I tried Asimov's last year and didn't really love it. So, okay. Mark says that he nominated Paper Girls for graphic story. So,
I probably would rate it higher than Saga at this point. So, like, I'm not super disappointed it showed up. I think it did do things that were different for graphics, but I'm just feeling bitter because nothing I wanted to show up showed up. So it's fine. It's fine. I only nominated Neil Clark was the only one of my nominations that made it. I am a Clarkesworld girl.
He's the one that I didn't nominate because I figured he'd make the list anyway. Just, I was like, I could just use that spot for somebody else. I like Clarkesworld a lot more now that I have read over a year's worth of it. I was at first like really, and now I can tell almost right away which stories I'm gonna like and which ones are not to my taste. But yeah. I'm trying to see which ones I nominated in this category. Okay.
Yeah.
I nominated the Thomases for Uncanny. Which is not surprising.
I mean, we both liked them all of last year. Pretty much every Uncanny I've read so far, I've really enjoyed. Kind of bound up in the day.
Does anybody think it's interesting that on the shortlist they're listed together in a single slot, but everywhere I was looking in recommendation lists before nominating said that you had to nominate them separately?
I think last year the Vandermeers got nominated together. Am I hallucinating that? There are a couple of editing couples that when they say if you want to nominate us both. And so I think so long as they only work on stuff together, you can kind of do it as a team.
I feel a little misled about the Thomases then because I could have nominated somebody else in a fifth slot and I didn't. So, and yeah, they said they wanted to be nominated together, but everybody kept saying the rules said that they couldn't be. So I'm like really confused.
Maybe it was a decision to munch them into one category and give someone else a slot on the Hugo side. I'd be interested to hear about that in particular.
Yeah, I would like clarification, because I'm going to keep nominating them as long as I keep loving Uncanny.
Datlow and Strahan are both, or Strahan are both anthology editors, right? They just do anthologies? Yeah.
They also both edit for Tor.com.
Yes, okay.
And I nominated Ellen Datlow last year on the strength of some Tor.com stories, and I hadn't read enough of 2016 stuff that she did to nominate her again. I did nominate Jonathan Strahan. He was also another one that I figured he'd already make the list, because I think he appears almost every year, but I think he does good work. And the last one is John Joseph Adams, which is Lightspeed, though I know he edits a lot of other anthologies. I don't know if any of you guys have read any of those.
I don't think I've read any of his anthologies.
I haven't, so.
Just Lightspeed for him.
Yeah.
I like Lightspeed. I sometimes forget to talk about it, but I like them. I think it's because they align with my personal tastes very well, but not like so astoundingly like Uncanny does, and I don't have difficulties with it like I've had with Apex or Clark's World, so. I assume Mark is talking about Jonathan Strahan as a podcaster in the chat. I agree. I love Coode Street Podcast.
So I totally skipped over, or I encourage you to skip over the best dramatic presentations, but we can still talk about those if you want. I think.
Is anybody surprised by anything in this category? Because if we're not, I just say skip it.
No.
I mean, I'm gonna vote for Arrival, and that's pretty much all I have to say.
Yeah.
Yep. Fun.
Yep. There's no surprises. There's nothing that I felt really sad about missing either. Like there's like no like, oh man, that should have totally been on the list. So
I haven't seen Hidden Figures. That's one I absolutely want to see before I vote. But I was actually never in any doubt that it would make the list.
Yeah. Yeah. And even the short form stuff is not super surprising. There is an album on here. That was a bit weird.
My understanding is that this is the first time an album has been nominated in this category since the 1970s. And Shauna McGuire had a Filk album nominated in 2012, I think, in Best Related Work. I've known that things like albums could be nominated in this category. I wonder how people decide which one they want to put it in. They're like Best Related Work or short form presentation.
I think it's one of those things where the person who makes it has to say up front, if you're going to nominate me, please nominate me in X category, right? For whichever way it's going to go.
I nominated The Expanse episode in the short form category, which I'm happy about. So I don't watch Doctor Who and I don't watch Game of Thrones, and I'm really happy that they have that 2-episode limit. That's why one of the Game of Thrones episodes was deemed ineligible, because it was the third one.
Yeah. I'm glad that Black Mirror made it. Black Mirror's done some really good stuff, so I'm glad to see them on the list. Although they're they can be a little heavy. Like, I actually recommend people who are starting out to skip the first episode of Black Mirror, because I think it's hard to come back to it after the first episode. I have to save that for later.
Speaking of the album in this category, though, I listened to it on YouTube, and it was okay. So it's not like my style of music, but it was interesting. And I noticed that in one of the songs, the Kefahuchi tract was name dropped. So maybe Mark is really happy about that. I only noticed it because I'm reading the series right now, which is M. John Harrison's series, Light, Nova Swing, and I forget what the third book is called. Which means I kind of want to go back and read the lyrics to that album and see what else is mentioned in there, like Ansibles and stuff. But
Ugh. See,
Joe, do you watch any of the TV series that were nominated here?
Bit difficult considering I don't actually have a TV anymore.
I don't have one either. I don't have any like cable or whatever.
No, I actually don't have a TV. I got rid of it last year. So, quite difficult.
Have you seen
Done
movies?
wonderful reading that.
Have you seen movies from the long form category then?
Long form is Arrival, yes. Paul, yes. I'm avoiding because I've heard nothing but negative things about it, and I've seen everything I know about it. Just sounds painful, frankly.
Which one is that?
Ghostbusters.
Oh.
I'm not surprised it got nominated. I feel like it would have been a stronger film if it hadn't name dropped the original Ghostbusters so hard. Like if it had not had any of the original cast in it, I think it would have been a stronger movie overall. But
yeah, just
like,
make a new Ghostbusters. Don't try to the original with this cast.
Yeah, the having all of the original cast show up was a little bit not to my taste. But yeah.
Maya says that she nominated an episode of Alice Isn't Dead. In short form. I nominated like 3 episodes of Welcome to Night Vale. I am surprised that Welcome to Night Vale has never shown up on a short list.
Yeah, that is a huge
my
omission.
theory is that the fan bases don't overlap. That maybe not as many Hugo voters listen to the podcast, which is sad.
And I think that the podcast often feels more like horror. And although horror is part of speculative fiction, like sometimes people get a little horror isn't interesting enough to like do the crossover, unless of course it's got these century-old connections to Lovecraft, in which case, yes, you can come in and join the party. So
maybe because it's horror. I don't usually think of it as being horror or like creepier or whatever. But I could see that somewhat. Yeah. I think initially some people weren't sure if it really was science fiction-y or fantasy or speculative fiction, that it was just surreal.
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought of it as being like alternate timelines, other dimensions, like things like Wakula Springs can be nominated for Hugo Awards, and it's barely even fantasy then. Welcome to Night Vale.
Yeah. If other dimensional creatures can get themselves elected as mayor, I think it firmly falls within the Hugo purview, right? It's like... All right. We've put off Best Editor long form with himself at the first... no, thank you. But
let's just skip him.
Best Editor long form is so hard because so many books don't outright say this was edited by so-and-so, and you have to say, okay, if it was edited by this publishing house, then I should vote for this editor because that's probably who worked on it or helped work on it. And that just makes it really rough. Then you're just saying best publisher. You're not just saying best editor.
I went and I pulled all the books I'd read that were published in 2016 that I really loved. Like all the books that I nominated for the best novel category, I pulled them and I looked up who the editor was, like in the acknowledgments. You're just hoping that they mention them in the acknowledgments. It's not always on the copyright page. And so that's how I picked. But the thing is, you don't know if the person you nominate is eligible unless you can find, they have to have four published works within the time frame. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how to look that up. I would hope that there's like a resource or a database out there where people like crowdsource that and figure it out.
Yeah, it's such a hard category. I feel like it makes me, it was one of the categories that made me feel like I didn't know enough to nominate, because I felt like there was an expectation that I would know who the editors were and what else they had worked on, which is, it's just so opaque unless you're in the publishing industry already. That, yeah, you can hope for the acknowledgements page. You can go onto the publisher's website and see the listing to see if they've listed who the editor was. You can stalk the author on Twitter and see if they mentioned their editor at any point in time. And at that point, it's too much work. It's just too much work for me. I think I nominated one person who didn't make it. It's also can be quite hard to figure out how to nominate for editor, because so much of their work is invisible. Is the work you're reading kind of tightly plotted? There's no rough edges. The theme is continuous throughout. There's no dropped anything. Okay, maybe that's the editing, right? Probably there is some editing involved, right? But it's like, there are books I would not rate 5 stars that I would say were very well edited. And so that can be hard to figure out. But best of luck to the nominees for the most part. 5 out of 6. Jesus. This is the man that, sorry, we don't need to rant about that today. Joe, did you do any nominations for long form editing?
No, I don't know. Yeah, you know, like you said, I just don't know how to go about figuring out who edited what and the amount and stuff. It's just, I just didn't nominate anything in the end.
Yeah. I'm surprised there were even 752 ballots that were cast for this. Like, that's a pretty big chunk of people that think they know about editors. So, all right.
Best professional artist? I nominated Galen Dara and Victor Nye, and I was surprised to see Sana Takeda. But in retrospect, I can see why a lot of people nominate her because of Monstrous.
Yeah, it was really beautiful.
This is the first year when I can look at all of the artists in this category and I know what they did, with the possible exception of John Piccaccio, which I know I've seen his work. I just don't recognize it under his name. Chris McGrath does a lot of tour covers. He does, or did, Max Gladstone's craft sequence covers. And I wish I'd remembered that because I would have nominated him.
Yeah, I can't find anything for Piccaccio after 2014, so, but I'm sure he's got more recent stuff.
He's such a huge name. I mean, isn't he one of the people who shows up in this category every year?
I don't know. I pay less attention to professional artists. I'm still learning people's names. I'm starting to pay attention to covers. So none of my professional artists made it this year, but there were so, like, I think 2 of my long lists didn't make my ballot are on this ballot, so I'm not mad. I am less bitter. Less bitter. He's
Who
done.
did you nominate then? Like,
let's see. Alyssa Winans, Ravina Kai, Anna and Elena Balbuso, Kevin Hong, and Lauren Panapinto. So almost mostly for like tour stuff and for covers. So
I really love Ravina Kai's work.
yeah,
It's a beautiful style.
Yeah. But this is such a subjective. I think in some ways there are so many more best artists than there necessarily are for like best novelists that it's like, well, okay, it's all pretty. So
I think the one in this category that I was sad didn't make it. I'm gonna check to see if I actually did nominate it. Victor Mosquera. I nominated him. He does Ada Palmer's covers and Ian McDonald's Luna series covers, at least here in the US.
I think you just talked about him actually.
Yes,
like being able to recognize his covers from a distance now. So yeah.
Yeah. I think his artwork is pretty distinctive. You know, it's all in the details, and yeah. So I would love to see him on the best professional category someday.
Joe, did you do any professional artist nominations or?
No. No, I don't know enough of them, frankly. I don't pay attention to enough to actually making a sort of nomination.
I think the more I read physical books, the more I'm paying attention to artists. Whereas when I just see them fly by, like on an ebook or on a digital magazine, I'm less likely to pay attention. So now that I have, I'm seeing more artists and I'm getting more interested in knowing who they are. So it's, yeah.
I didn't start noticing cover artists until I started doing book hauls, and like I really hate talking about books before I've read them. I have nothing to say about them. It's like just repeatedly saying, I'm excited to read this. Well, duh,
Yes.
I bought it. But it's like, what else can I talk about? And I thought, well, I should talk about cover artists, because so much of the time you buy an edition of a book because it's beautiful. And why is it beautiful? Well,
Yeah. All right. Best semi-prozine. Was Cervosa the poison pill, or is that an actual? No. Was there a poison pill this year for semi-prozine?
I would have guessed that was it, but I do not know.
I'll do a quick internet search.
I feel like this category is serving up some of the same names every year. Of course, I'm super happy about Uncanny Magazine, but I think it's going to become a staple in this category every year, in the same way that Beneath Ceaseless Skies is, and Strange Horizons is.
Yeah. I would like it if there was more available, but on the other hand, we do have some things that are quite strong. I think, is this the first time that the Book Smugglers has been on Best Semi-Pro, or have they been up before?
I think it's their first time.
Yeah. And again, I say it, I want there to be more short story sources, and then I don't read them until it's Hugo nomination time, and then I panic and read like 100 in a month. So, I mean, maybe we're already well served. I don't know.
I admit I nominated Strange Horizons and the Book Smugglers purely on the strength of their reputation, even though I hadn't read that much fiction from them.
I'm excited for the Book Smugglers mostly because they show up in my Twitter feed all the time, and not because I've actually experienced anything that they've created. Like at a certain point, people become upstanding members of your community, and you're like, "Oh, I'm so happy for you." I have no idea, like if it's actually worth it, but yay, I'm still happy. Yeah.
So Paul says in the chat that understanding whether it's non-professional or not, and what comes to semi-prozine is kind of difficult, like understanding how to nominate it.
Yeah.
I actually think that the semi-prozine category is super easy to nominate for, because there is a semi-prozine directory that they update every year, and they like go talk to people behind the scenes and find out whether they qualify it or not. And that's how I pick, because they do all the hard work for me.
It's is it purely based on pay rate, or is it pay rate and number of issues?
I think it's both. They have to have a qualifying number of issues, and then they have to figure out what the pay rate was.
Yeah, the pay rate's often published on their submissions page, so if you're looking at that, you can find it. But still, it's not as easy as saying having a directory.
Yeah. The really, really difficult one is professional artist versus fan artist, I think.
Did they get paid, right?
Yeah. And sometimes a fan writer as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Haha, fanzine. So I am someone who, when I consume fan work, it is like 95% of it is on YouTube. So I am trying to get into podcasts, but I'm just not super there. And so when I see things like this, and I know that there's like articles that I'll sometimes read, but when I see things like this, I'm like, I recognize these people's names. But like, I don't know. Except for Rocket Stack Rank, which helps me organize my panic reading every year. And I'm really glad that they're on the list. Like, they do a lot of hard work compiling short story reviews or shorter work reviews, and yeah. Castilia House blog.
Journey Planet is another like perennial favorite in this category, and I know nothing about them.
Yeah. Lady Business went up. Did Lady Business go up last year? Lady Business was close, I think, last year for nomination talk. Nerds of a Feather I've read before.
They're another one that I always pay attention to what they're talking about during nomination season.
Yeah. They have really good advice. I didn't nominate anything in fanzine, just because I just don't know enough. Well, or if I nominated things, I nominated things in Fancast. That's where I nominated things. But it's all very hard. There is a large and thriving fan community of which we are an active part, and so it's that like
we're an active part of the new evolution of the fan community, and I'm waiting for the day when a booktube channel shows up.
Yeah,
I think it'll happen in Fancast.
Yeah, it'll happen in Fancast. If I had to pick one, I feel like Thomas's channel. I feel like SSF 180 is a good transitional channel. I feel like what he does is close enough to what's been done before that people can see that and see the worth of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not trying to say his work isn't good on its own, but I'm just saying that I think he's got enough of that.
There's a logical connection and parallel between what he's talking about and what blogs and other places are talking about. So yeah, I totally see that.
Yeah.
I know also, people do nominate booktube channels.
Yeah.
I've done it.
I totally nominate booktubers here. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's also like a piece of pessimism. It will be a white male who breaks the YouTube boundary into Hugo Awards.
I don't say that necessarily. I would put money on Elizabeth's channel.
Ooh, yes. I mean, no, I think there are a bunch of channels that are worthy of award. I mean, I'm not going to talk smack about anybody, but it's just like if I was going to put money on who I think would get it first. Like, sad face Denise comes out. Let's see.
Do we want to talk about Fancast then?
Yeah.
I actually struggled with this category for the first time. When I first started nominating and voting in the Hugo Awards, I was listening to a lot, and I maxed out my nominations every year. And this year I only nominated 2. I nominated Coup Straight Podcast and Tea and Jeopardy, which both made it. I feel like I should have nominated more, but I hadn't listened to enough episodes and I ran out of time.
Mm-hmm. How many episodes do you feel like you should listen to before you decide something is worthy of nomination? Like
maybe
what's
4 to 6 or so. It depends on how frequent they are. Like Coup Straight Podcast comes out once a week, I think, and I would say listen to a couple weeks worth of it and you'll get the gist of what they're talking about. Tea and Jeopardy you're lucky if they have one every 2 months.
Mm-hmm. So
you could easily listen into an entire year, and it's shorter episodes as well. That's one of the things I love about Tea and Jeopardy is it's short. It's not like 2-hour long podcast episodes.
Yeah. Easy to consume. Yeah, Tea and Jeopardy is something that's on my list to listen to because I love both Emma and Peter Newman. Like I think their works are both really excellent, and therefore I would like to listen to them talk. But yeah.
I love that they don't just interview authors. They have done illustrators and people who work in other fields as well. It's all, kind of speculative fiction based, but I like that because I want to know more about the artists working in the field and not just in adult, but also young adult, middle grade and stuff. So the variety is great. But I admit sometimes I'm completely unfamiliar with who they're talking to. And so I listen for the framework story, the adventures and the butler trying to kill people. The one I'm happy to see in here, which I had forgotten about, was Ditch Diggers, Murray Lafferty and Matt Wallace. I feel like that's a podcast geared at writers, so it's not really my kind of thing, but they do it so well, and I love both of them.
And I just go, oh yeah, the 6 Wakes person, right? No. No? very, very similar, if not. Yeah.
I think a lot of people may very well know Mur from her other podcast. I Should Be Writing, I think is what she calls it.
Yes. Oh, yes. I 100% know about that one. That's huge. Fan writer. I actually have some big opinions in the fan writer. I think Chuck Tingle is actually a pretty good fit here for what he did last year. I think a compilation of his Twitter rants about Ted Cobbler, which I think is his Vox Day analog, and what he did with the website. I feel like he did some really epic, high quality trolling last year that I feel is worthy at least of a mention. So I follow him on Twitter now, and I think he's just hilarious. I have yet to read any of his work. I did accidentally download the erotica story last year onto my work computer. I haven't actually read it. I haven't read his work, so I don't know the quality of his day-to-day work. But what he does on Twitter is just fantastic. So, and I was actually kind of sad to see Foz Meadows here and not in novel, because I think An Accident of Stars was really good, and I'm glad she's on the list. But I feel like it's like this, second place fan writer.
I didn't nominate in this category, though if I had, I would have nominated Mike Glyer, Natalie Lours, and Abigail Nussbaum. They're the only ones on this that I follow them regularly.
Yeah, they're the serious ones. I really like File 770 for the news aggregation. Mm-hmm. So I can get, at the end of the day, I can get, here's the 12 things that happened that you can choose to read. And yeah, so the comic session, the comments areas are sometimes great and sometimes not super great. And there's this thick cruft of in-jokes kind of that happen in the first 10 posts.
that is why I've never really engaged with File 770. I love reading the news. It's very, very helpful, but I can't crack the in-jokes. I don't understand what they're talking about.
Yeah, it's fine. We're going to make our own in-jokes. We're fine.
It kind of ups my social anxiety levels. I would like to get involved, but I just can't. I can't bring myself. Yeah. Fan artist. We're getting near the end of the list. Oh, we still have best series to talk about.
Yeah, we have best series and the Campbell Award.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is our last. So I did not nominate in best fan artist because I was just So I just didn't know too much.
I nominated, how do you pronounce that? Lickane?
Sure.
Yes. I've seen a lot of people talking about her work, and it is beautiful. And I went to her website and I was looking at it. I was like, okay, it's gorgeous. I'll nominate her. But that was it for me.
I think because Rocket Stankrake chose not to do fan artists this year, it made it a lot harder for me to even begin looking at stuff. So
they were not the only ones that chose to not talk about it either. There were some other people who just didn't. A lot of people just mentioned Lickane, and that was it. Yeah, it's there's a lot of people creating art, and it's much more accessible than it used to be, and so it can be hard to kind of, back in the old days before the internet, there would just be fanzines, and then there'd be free art in the fanzines, and then you could vote for that. But now it's everyone has a DeviantArt page. Mm-hmm.
Everyone has an Etsy shop. If they sell it, does that no longer make them a fan artist? Or if they weren't paid to create it for professional work, does it not?
That's the problem. Yeah.
Or I could just buy their stuff and put it on my walls, and that's my way of voting for them. So. Oh boy.
Best series time.
Best series. So none of the series I voted for got it in, but I'm not mad at this list, except for The Rivers of London.
I am really happy about this category. I think only one of my nominations made it, but I'm not unhappy because I nominated some things that I thought were it just probably didn't have a chance, and I'm cool with that. But mostly, I'm happy that this inaugural year is not dominated by very old series. and in some cases not like super long running series. I think the Vorkosigan Saga is the longest one, and is anybody surprised it's on the list?
No. And it was nice to see a Bane set, because I think that's the first real Bane thing that we've seen on the ballot. So that's good.
I think the issues with Vorkosigan Saga is some people were not sure if it was eligible because there was debate about Gentleman Joel and the Red Queen making it ineligible because it had like an ebook preview released in 2015, and people were debating whether that was publication. And apparently, I mean, there hasn't been a statement on it, but people are kind of assuming, based on it not being deemed ineligible for Best Series, that means the Hugo Awards are not considering that kind of preview as a publication.
Okay, yeah, because doesn't they do that with a lot of their works, that you can get early access to their books if you're part of their club? I have a friend that's super into the Bane stuff, and he says that he can get them all early and, for whatever price. So, but I think if it's not publisher, or I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't have to be in charge of this. It's so nice.
I would like there to be like a real clarification, like in the best novel category, like state something about that, because it may happen again.
Yeah, what does and does not count as the published date? It would be nice. Yeah, none of these are surprises to me, and I've read at least one book in all but 2 of the series. So,
me too. I haven't read any of the October Day books, and I haven't read any of the Peter Grant books.
I've read one of the October Day books, and I liked it. I just haven't gotten back to it because of my life choices. And then Peter Grant, I've actually DNF'd the series after, I think, 3 books, just because I like them. I can see how people would like them, but I think Aronovich doesn't do super well writing about women, and or that I really just hate Peter Grant. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure if it's an author or if it's a main character issue. But I can totally see why people would be into a supernatural London mystery series. It's solid otherwise. And of course, The Expanse had to do it because we have one of its TV episodes up above as well. So
that's the one that I nominated. When I was going through my list, I thought that's actually a really solid series. That it's getting better over time. The later books are actually better than the first ones. And that's the sign of a really, really great series to me. It's why I didn't nominate the Vorkosigan Saga, purely because the last 3 books that have been published I thought were quite weak compared to the earlier ones. And I thought, well, but The Expanse I nominated, and I am happy to see the craft sequence on there.
Yeah.
Everyone deserves it a lot. Temeraire. Has anybody here read Temeraire?
A friend of mine devoured it and loved it, but I haven't read it.
I've read the first 6 books. I have the last 3, and the 6th book was an utter snooze fest. I hate saying this, but it seems to have killed my desire to go on with the rest of the series. I may try to finish it because it's nominated. I see why people nominated it, actually, because it's a completed series. And Naomi Novik is a good writer. She's very well known. It's going a little downhill, a little bit.
All right, Joe. So aside from the Vorkosigan Saga, which I'm pretty sure you're excited to see, what else? What do you think about the rest of the list?
Well, the only ones I've read of it is The Expanse. I want craft sequence. I haven't tried the Peter Grant books, although I've met Ben Aronovich, oddly enough. And the Timber, I've heard people mention it. Obviously, they've actually mentioned it. So, I don't know too much about that one. But it appears to be a perfectly good list.
Yeah. Is there anything that you nominated that you wish had made the list?
No, I actually only went for The Expanse because I couldn't actually think of anything else that had a release last year.
Yeah.
I am disappointed to not see the Fractured Europe sequence by Dave Hutchinson.
Yeah. I haven't read the first book yet. I've read like the Kindle sample of the first book, and I own the first book. Haven't read it yet. I actually, so I was kind of disappointed that Catherine Valente's Fairyland series didn't make it, because they're falling out of eligibility after this year, and I thought that was a really but it's also not an adult series, and so
I seriously considered putting that on my list, and I bumped it so that I could nominate the Young Wizard series by Diane Duane. Just even though I knew it wouldn't make it.
Yeah, and then I did nominate Joe Walton's Necessity Just Series or Just City series, because I thought even though I hated the ending of the third book, I thought otherwise it was very tightly constructed and very interesting, and I thought that was something that would be worthy of this.
I am a little surprised that didn't make it now that I think about it. I also think that the publication schedule for that series might have made some people not realize that it was eligible.
Yeah, because
it had 2 books come out in 1 year, and I think some people may have missed the last book because of that.
Yeah, it was kind of an odd publication schedule. I also let my YA roots show when I nominated The Raven Cycle, which has had an uneven response depending on whether you're a primarily YA reader, but my teenage heart loved it.
So Paul says something interesting in chat about he's curious to see if any of these series were suggested by the publishers for people to vote for. And I think actually that didn't happen. I don't think it did. I think there were some really, really comprehensive lists of what was eligible in the big Hugo recommendation spreadsheet that Renee did and on File 770.
Yeah.
And they were super, super comprehensive. And
when I saw authors talking about what they were eligible for, I didn't see anybody talk about series so much as about single books or shorter works. Like, I don't know if I saw much, hey, nominate me for this, one-time category, best series. So I think it's too new. I do hope it sticks around though, because I feel like this is a good place for us to put books that, take 3 or 4 books to really pay out, but they have a good payout.
People really want to know how this will play out over the long run. Will you see the same series appear over and over and over again? I would like to know too. I think there won't be many repeats next year because some of the things on this list won't be eligible next year.
Yeah.
Temeraire won't be eligible. Vorkosigan Saga won't be eligible. On the other hand, the other 4 will probably be if they have
it's
releases slated.
Yeah, but there's also so many series that I think people may now go, oh, but there's all these things that I nominated that I could have nominated. Like we haven't thought about it in this way before, so maybe it'll continue better. Oh, you ready for the Campbell Awards?
I'm also super happy about this one. This one's going to be painful to vote in because 3 of the 4 people that I love on this list are in their second year of eligibility.
Yeah. Of my 5 nominations, 3 of them made it, and 2 are in their second year. And so it's that, like, oof. I really want Kelly Robson to get this, but Too Like the Lightning was so good.
Yeah. Okay, I want to know if Joe nominated in this category based on any, especially short fiction, because you've read a lot of short fiction.
No, I didn't actually nominate in this one, although, and actually out of the ones I got, the only one I've actually read is Malka Older for Democracy, which I really, really liked.
I thought you read Kelly Robson's Waters of Versailles. No?
She's written a bunch of, what else did she write? The 3 somethings of somebody. Okay, so my short story title stuff is not great.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I haven't read it, but I know the title. I recognize. Okay. She also wrote a Tremontaine tie-in story for Tor.com that I'm blanking on the name of. I haven't read that either.
Okay, so The Human Stain came out this year, so that doesn't count. She wrote The Eye of the Swan.
That's a Tremontaine one, yeah.
Yep. Waters of Versailles, The Three Resurrections of Jessica Churchill, which is the one that I remembered. And yeah, so yeah, I think she's just brilliant. I think she's absolutely brilliant. And then there's some other stuff that I haven't read. The Gladiator Lie and The 2-Year Man and Good for Grapes, which I haven't. But I really, really like her. And I really... it's that if Palmer was guaranteed a best novel, I wouldn't want to vote for her here. But it's like I don't want to like have her not get either. So I'm just...
I feel like Ada Palmer has a better chance in the Campbell category than in best novel, honestly.
Yeah. And then Laurie Penny's Your Horizons May Be Recorded was really good.
I nominated her purely on the strength of that story. I actually, sorry, my dog. I actually DNF'd her novella, The Future is Everything, or whatever that was called. I ended up being rather bored by it.
Yeah.
But yeah, her short story was excellent.
Yeah. And then I had also...
Sorry. I'm surprised that Joe didn't nominate Malka Older because you've read Infomocracy.
No, I just didn't actually think. I mean, if I actually thought of it, I would have. I just at the time I couldn't think of authors that were new that I'd read.
There's a directory, there's a website that lists authors that are in the Campbell nomination cycle, like if they're first or second year. There's a huge list of authors that get put up there when they get published. And that's basically how I try to figure out, like I looked at names and see who I recognize, and then I looked at stories and then decided if I liked those stories well enough. Because if you read a lot of shorter work especially, I imagine this would be a daunting category.
Although I have to say that I'm more aware of new writers through short fiction. So that's why, with the exception of Ada Palmer, and if you consider Infomocracy to be a novella, which it's not, all of my nominations were based on short stories. Yeah. I've read enough where I was like, I could tell from magazine blurbs and stuff who was new. And so I knew them by that.
Yeah. So I nominated, I think it's Arkady Martine or Martine Arkady, who wrote Fear, Death by Water, among other things.
I know the name, I don't recognize the story.
Yeah. And I hope that they make the ballot for other stuff in future years, because I've really enjoyed, I think, most of what they've read.
I don't know if Rich Larson or Sam J. Miller were eligible this year. Possibly they are past their second years of eligibility, because I know they were both publishing back in 2015.
And it looks like actually she was not actually eligible, and that's why she didn't make the list. That's why I wasted a slot. Yeah. I kind of wanted KB Wagers to make it. I really liked Behind the Throne. I thought that was really well done.
She was on my list. Yep.
I kind of wish nothing would get published between October and December of the year, because I feel like if you publish in that zone, it's going to be much harder for you to get notice in time to get award buzz. So if you write something really spectacular, it needs to come out like March. Otherwise, there's no time.
I'm so sad that Emma Newman's science fiction novels come out in the fall. They come out in November, and I'm like, by that time, everybody's already like reading for the next year.
Yeah.
Who else did I nominate in this category? There was somebody else that didn't make it. Oh no, that was it. Yeah, the only one from my list that didn't make it is KB Wagers. And everybody who did make it was published by Tor. Malka Older, Ada Palmer, Kelly Robson, and Laurie Penny.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that Tor is such a strong publishing house right now, that they've got a really marketable name, and that they're picking up a lot of good talent. But I worry. Like, I want there to be more super strong publishers, because that just means there's even more books that will go on my bookshelves and I'll read in 2 years and then be really sad that I read them too late. But
when you're talking about something like short fiction, or specifically new writers breaking into the field for the Campbell Award, I think it's kind of sad that it's so focused on Tor, because a lot of these people's other work is published somewhere else. You're looking really at just one story that they wrote, for example, rather than whatever they may have had published that year in Clarkesworld or Lightspeed or Apex or something. That's kind of like my question about Rich Larson, and that I don't think he had anything published on Tor.com last year, but he had things published in Lightspeed. I think he had things published in Clarkesworld and the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction. But people are not looking there.
Yeah, I'm wondering how much harder it is to nominate things that don't come for free. That
I never used to think
or that don't even show up on the internet, right?
I didn't think that used to be such a big deal, because you could see in previous years that like the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction and Analog and Asimov's especially really dominated some of the short fiction categories. And this year, I think, is a really huge shift away from that.
Mm-hmm.
Really big shift away from it. Even considering that there were so many recommendations for Hugo reading that came from there. Like On Oymayela had a novella, I think, or a novelette in Asimov's that everybody was talking about. And it didn't make the list. It didn't make the short list.
Yeah. And I wonder if there's been a shift of Hugo voters. Confession time, I didn't vote until Sasquatch. So I didn't know that it was something I could vote on until the puppy stuff broke free in a big way. And then it was 6 hours from my house. And I was like, all right, well, I can do this. So I'm wondering if what happened there was that there was a big influence of the younger generation, who read differently.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the online magazines that have things for free. Clarkesworld is one of the oldest ones, and they just had their 10th anniversary. I think they're reaching a maturity level that they've been around long enough. They have a reputation. More people are reading them. And people have been saying for years that the subscription levels have been steadily dropping for the print magazines.
Yeah.
So, and the only reason I didn't read On's novelette before the Hugos is I didn't have a subscription anymore. I didn't feel like going out and buying just that one issue for like $4 to read a story. I would like to read it someday, but it's just, when I don't want to pay for it right now.
Maybe when it gets reprinted in another, set, you'll finally get to it.
That's totally what I want. I'm hoping that it makes a year's best. Jonathan Strawn might love it, and he'll put it in one of his anthologies, and I'll get to read it that way.
Yeah, I am much likely these days to read a magazine because I've supported it on Patreon than I am to beg my library to get a subscription so I can check it out and read it from my library. It's that.
My libraries are super accommodating about purchase requests, but they would never subscribe to a short fiction magazine like this. It wouldn't be worth it for them.
Yeah.
Backtracking just a second, Mark asked a question in the chat about, are we going to give preference to people in their second year of eligibility when voting in the Campbell category? For me, the answer is I used to. That was my tiebreaker. But like I said, 3 of the 4 that I'm really, really excited about on this list are already in their second year. So there's no tiebreaker there.
I mean, ideally, it will be entirely on the strength of their work. I mean, I know that if Kelly Robson doesn't get the Campbell, I'm pretty sure she'll continue to write amazing, shorter, or maybe even eventually a longer science fiction work, and she'll get nominated again. I feel comfortable with that. I almost feel more comfortable letting a shorter author slip by because I know that they're more likely to continue to produce work. Whereas if it's a novel, there's that feeling of was this it for you? And is it still going to be good? I mean, I know Seven Surrenders is out, so I'm not really worried about Ada Palmer, but in general, I kind of worry more about novels because I think it's harder to repeat than a short story.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, have we talked about everything then? I think we have.
Yeah, we've gone through the list.
Whew.
Do we feel like this year is more fantasy heavy than it's been in previous years? I feel like the novels are still really heavy on the science fiction, but I think with the best series, it it surprises me to see urban fantasy. If you weren't here for the very beginning, I was talking about how urban fantasy is often considered lowbrow, and like we have 2 urban fantasy series in the best series, and so I think that's really interesting.
I noticed that too. I noticed the fantasy heaviness in some of the short fiction categories, I think, and I was like, I mean, I was super biased towards fantasy and short fiction as well. I hadn't even realized it.
Yeah.
I think overall it's a strong shortlist, and I've seen some comments online actually of people saying, well, now that we're kind of past the puppy debacles and we're maybe getting back to more business as usual, we should start talking about how not strong the works are on the Hugo list. And I was like, what do you mean? I mean, 43 things I nominated this year made the ballot. Like, what is your complaint?
I think they're trying to say that you don't have good taste, and I think they're wrong. And I'd be interested because I think we're in getting a relatively tight band of like generational experience. I'd be interested like reading what the older fans think of this list and seeing if they feel the same way we do about some of these works, or if they're disappointed because it's not, because now that there's no puppies also saying it, I think they feel more comfortable saying, well, it's not like the books we used to read, right? Which, yeah, these books are better, so suck it.
I think the undeniable thing is that the nominees are much more diverse.
Yes.
There were some stats going around about this. It's like the most diverse shortlist there's ever been. The only thing that's not really diverse is that it is still very American-centric. Most of the authors and creators and everything are from the American market.
Yeah. But in the novels and novellas, there is one white man, and that's kind of amazing, I think. Reviewing the title. There's, and we have a translated work, which is really amazing too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if we can get away from, yes, it would be nice if the Hugos were not so much an American award. Have you looked to see what any of the like the foreign language awards have been looking like, or? I
don't think I'm super aware of any foreign language ones, except there's one that's given out at the Hugo Awards. I can't remember what it's called. I want to say it's Japanese. I might be wrong.
Yeah.
I may be totally misremembering. There used to be an annual award for SF in translation. It ran for 3 or 4 years, and it stopped. And I don't know why. I think it was a funding issue, and I would love to see something like that come back.
Yeah. There's the French award. What is it? My French is gone. The Prix Imaginales. That's not how you would say it in French, but they do have a foreign novel translated into French, but there's also purely French novels. And the purely French novel like author list, I don't recognize any of those names. Like they're all completely away from anything I know. And I'm like, can we get those translated? Because I'd really like to read those.
Mark found the name. Yeah, it's the Seyoun Award, or however you pronounce that. That's one I was remembering.
Yeah.
I think the most likely thing that will happen with like the Hugo Awards and the Nebula Awards, things that are very American based, is that popular short fiction venues will start publishing more translated fiction, and those will be nominated. Like, imagine if Tor.com was publishing translated novellas. They already dominate the list.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And I know that so far this year I've read 2 short story collections that were both like foreign language. I read the Iraq Plus 100, and I've read the Invisible Cities, and so like that was really cool to kind of see that insight. And I'd love to see more works like that.
Clark's World does publish a translated short story in each issue. It's mainly been Chinese. They just did an Italian one a little while ago. Strange Horizons has published translated fiction, and they've just launched Samovar, which is their it's a quarterly magazine. I think of it like a sister magazine to Strange Horizons, and it is 100% translated fiction and reviews of translated works, and it's awesome. I plan on talking about it during Vita, so yeah.
Excellent.
Their first issue is out, and I thought it was really, really solid. So
excellent.
They don't just publish the English translations; they publish the stories in their original language as well.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
So,
All right.
well,
I think that's it. We just did a Bree show without Bree entirely. Poor
it only
Bree.
took us 2 hours. We got through the entire thing, and
That's not bad.
oh goodness, my neighbors are being super loud, so maybe I should sign off.
Yes, I think we're going to declare ourselves complete. This will show up on your channel,
Yes.
and Joe and I both also have channels, and you can watch us or not. It's your choice. Definitely watch Joe, but you know.
Yes, I'll link everybody in the
Yeah.
description when I publish it. So.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thank you to everybody who watched and participated in chat, and maybe we'll get some more comments after this is not live anymore.
Yes.
And yeah, thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you for having us.